Good afternoon, everyone. It is Thursday, July the 18th, 2019. It is currently 3:56 p.m. Central Time. Well, this is a live broadcast for the VBC 66 app. Once again, this is a live broadcast for the VBC 66 app. Now, this live broadcast is obviously being recorded, and it will be posted all over the place, so I always have to at least explain what's going on. When I do these live broadcasts, I send out a notification, a push notification, and I let everyone know who has the VBC 66 app, hey guys, I'm going live, so tune in now. And it takes a few minutes for them to open up the app, get to the live app talk section, click on play, and to catch up. So at the beginning, I always kind of just welcome everyone, talk about a couple of different things before we jump right in. And for the people who hear the recording, I like them to kind of know what's going on. And I also take an opportunity to say, hey guys, if you're hearing me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, the 18 other places that you can hear our broadcast, I always like to tell them, hey, get the VBC 66 app, then you can listen to everything we post and keep up with everything. And you can do that by going to the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, doing a search for VBC, which stands for Victory Baptist Church, the number 66, which stands for the number of books in the Bible, VBC 66, run it all together, and voila, you can download our app. It's absolutely free. The only thing we want from you is for you to use the app at least 23 hours a day and share it with 23,000 people every day. All right. Now, okay. Yes, we want you to use it and we want you to share it. We don't want anything else from you. So please use the app and hopefully you'll find it to be beneficial. Speaking of the app, a couple of things. Yesterday, yesterday, maybe the last 2 days, one of the big things that we focused on was a sermon by Pastor Robert Jeffress of First Baptist Church in Dallas, Texas. His sermon on the coming implosion of America. I played his presentation. I did my analysis. I played an interview of him on the Janet Mefford radio program. And all of that is available, I think, in the Sermon and Bible Study Notes section of the VBC 66 app. And let's just say, the response hasn't been very positive. It seems that people aren't very happy with me. And when it comes down to it, people are not happy that I criticize the sermon. They're happy because of I have a perspective, and my perspective is that Christianity is not to be an American Christianity, and that we're not to wrap the Bible in the American flag, and we're not to read the Bible through the lens of the red, white, and blue, and we're not to read the Bible through the lens of the Constitution of the United States of America. I believe the Bible transcends all of those things, and that the Bible is the ultimate authority, and that I don't bend the Bible to be a pro-American document, okay? And I can speak... And yes, I think a lot of people are just mad because I don't have this nationalism, patriotism, conservative, political, pro-America ideology. And because of that, some people get very mad at me. But I think my critiques were logical, and I believe they were biblical. And I do believe that there's this hybrid form of Christianity that is spreading in the United States of America, and it's becoming very prevalent. And the hybrid is a politicized, a pro-American type of Christianity that reflects more. It doesn't reflect biblical Christianity. It doesn't reflect historical Christianity. And to criticize that, the fact that so many people got mad at me seems to demonstrate that maybe I was right, because it shouldn't have been that controversial to point that out, but it clearly was. But all of that is available on the VBC 66 app. I don't know why. Now I'm just asking myself, why did I just promote that? That was dumb. I mean, I've already made enough people mad. Why would I point more people to it to get mad? But I believe it's an important message, okay? Sometimes, in my experience, the important messages are typically the ones that do make people upset. If you're saying what everyone else already thinks and already agree with, sometimes I don't feel like those are the ones that people need. Sometimes what we need is what we don't want. What we need is sometimes what we don't want to hear. All right? I mean, I think that's true of all of us. We become comfortable and complacent and apathetic in our spiritual life, and sometimes we need a slap in the face to wake us up and see something from a perspective that we don't see, and that usually comes from an outside voice to offer a different perspective. So, I don't know. It was kind of discouraging that so many people were upset, but that's what happens when you put stuff out there. All right, so you can listen to all of that. 20 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, I did a quick recording on an episode of Law and Order and SVU in regards to, I think it's Matthew chapter 19, verse 14. And, I think the lesson in that, it's very short, little, message. You can listen to that. It's in the Food for Thought section on the VBC 66 app. The point of that message was we live in a culture that no longer speaks Bible, no longer speaks the Christian language. So when they hear a verse or the way they perceive a verse, we have to realize sometimes we take Scripture for granted because we're around it. But whenever we speak to a culture, a verse like suffer the little children, they understand that completely different than you probably understand that. And so it's from a dialogue from season 20, episode 1 of SVU, or Law and Order SVU. It's a very short audio clip. It's about 6 seconds, but the writers who wrote that section, man, you think they could have looked up a basic understanding of Matthew chapter 19, I believe verse 14. But they did not, and you can ask lots of questions. All right, that's kind of some introductory things. There's plenty of other things on the VBC 66 app. Check out the hermeneutics section. We did an impromptu hermeneutic lesson last night at Victory Baptist Church. That's in the hermeneutics section. Check out the church history section. There's always new content being added. So we're trying to make this a church app that is more than just, we're trying to give a church app that is providing spiritual food for people around the clock. That's what we're trying to do. And, hopefully it will work. But all right, let's do this. Let's turn our attention to the subject at hand. All right. I think it was Sunday night at Victory Baptist Church. I have not posted the sermon yet. But Sunday afternoon, I was doing some reading and kind of a devotional thought idea. I kind of got hit with this idea, and the more I started thinking about the idea, I thought it was something really important. So I went to church Sunday night and kind of delivered an impromptu devotional message that was a combining of a lot of different devotional ideas. I wasn't completely pleased with it. I was hoping people would have been, I was hoping for a better response. I mean, sometimes you think, man, this is a really powerful thought. And then sometimes people don't get the thought. And so you have to either ask yourself, A, was it not as powerful as you thought it was? Or did people not perceive the power of the thought, or didn't think it was that big a deal? And so then you start questioning yourself. But obviously I'm foolish, because here we are on Thursday, and guess what? I'm going to return to this devotional thought, this idea, and I'm going to expand it based off a devotional thought, a study I did this morning. So again, I'm placing two ideas together, and hopefully that it is beneficial. All right? And, well, I'm going to be reading from some different sources and just citing some different ideas. And hopefully anyone's listening, you can take this and maybe you can turn it into something better. If you're a preacher, maybe you can make it into a better sermon. If you're a podcaster, maybe you can turn it into a better devotional study. And if you're neither a pastor or a podcaster, maybe in your own private devotional time, you can really put these ideas together and flesh them out. I'm kind of providing a skeleton here, and you're going to have to put the flesh on it to turn it into something living. But I think there's something here we need to consider. All right. Now, I was reading Sunday afternoon, and here was the heading of the thing that I read. Vision affects morals. All right. That did not have a profound impact on me. Vision affects morals. Okay. Maybe, all right. I was kind of neither here nor there with it. I just kind of took that, took it for granted and just continued reading. And then I came to the Bible passage that, and this is in a devotional guide, to the Bible passage or the Bible verse that they were going to use for this devotional that they were about to share. And here's the verse they quoted. By faith, he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. By faith, he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 27. Now, we could go back and read the broader context here, but this is in Hebrews chapter 11, sometimes referred to as the Hall of Faith, describes all of these individuals who demonstrated great faith by the things that they did. Not saying that all these people in Hebrews 11 were perfect, because they were far from it. Many of them had great sin and failure in their lives. But these men at different times demonstrated and were an example of faith. And here is speaking of Moses. And in verse 27, they're speaking specifically about a certain event in his life. So let's go through this. By faith, there is the faith. Now, faith is this trusting, believing, acknowledging that there is a God, trusting in that God, believing in that God, committed to that God, following that God, that he had faith in the true God. And by his faith, he forsook Egypt. Now, Egypt for Moses represented position, power, security. I mean, it represented a lot of good things for him from a very humanistic perspective. He was going to be secure financially, he would have everything that he would want, everything being provided. He would have position, he would have power, he would have prestige. Things would have been great for him, but by faith, he forsook Egypt. Now, by forsaking Egypt, there's a negative thing that comes along with forsaking Egypt, because he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, or not fearing the wrath of the Pharaoh. He turned his back on Egypt. He turned his back on all the earthly good it will bring him, and he did so without any fear of the negative consequences. And how could he do this? For he endured as seeing him who is invisible. By faith, he had a vision. And when I say a vision, I'm not speaking of a mystical experience where he fell over and, started acting like you see in some charismatic churches. No, but he had a vision. In other words, he could see the invisible. The invisible was the controlling vision of his life, not the visible. The visible was Egypt. The visible was Pharaoh. The visible was all of these things that could be positive and all the things that could be negative. But he forsook all of that, and he endured as seeing. The controlling vision of his life was not the visible, what was the invisible. The controlling vision of his life was the invisible God, because by faith, he saw the invisible God, not in a literal sense, but in other words, he perceived the existence of God, God's greatness, God's sovereignty, God as being supreme, and that vision of God controlled more so than the vision of the visible. We could say it this way: the vision of the invisible became more prominent and controlling than his vision of the visible. The vision of the invisible was more prominent and controlling and powerful than the vision of that which could be seen with his natural eye. That's how he was able to forsake this. That was how he was able to endure. He had a controlling vision of the invisible. Now, they